Hello, hypothetical viewers, and welcome to a new series. I'm very excited that we are going to start Shining Force Sword of Hajya, aka Shining Force Gaiden 2. We just played Gaiden 1, and this is the sequel. Okay, we are going to be playing the second book, The Evil God Awakes. Yeah, I guess in the first one, it's like the root of evil was we had to go fight Iom or whatever, and in this one, we're still going to be fighting Iom, who is the main villain of this section. This is, as I mentioned in all of these playthroughs, this is the game I actually played as a kid. I did not play the Sega CD version, however. I played the original Game Gear version, so I'm very hyped about this because, this is going to have, like, updated graphics and stuff. Basically, the Game Gear's graphics were very simple. This is on the 6CD. The graphics were a bit more impressive. We're gonna play on easy because let's just take it easy and relax. And now we'll begin our story. The kingdoms Guardiana and Cypress have joined their armies to battle the evil Iom. So if you remember at the end of the first Shining Force game, um, Guardiana had been attacked by Cypress. We went there, met Prince Nick, yada yada. We defeated the Waldall or whoever who had taken over the place. But we learned that Iom was not truly defeated. We only delayed his resurrection. So in this one, we have to go actually defeat him. But unfortunately, Prince Nick's right arm was cursed and turned to stone when we were fighting Waldall, so he can't wield the legendary sword of Hajya. Oh yeah, it's not Hajya, it's Hajya. I keep forgetting that. I thought it was Hajya as a kid. Which is needed to fight Iom, so that's a bit tough. This is going to be a lot of voices, by the way, and they may or may not be consistent. You now offer a human sacrifice to Iom. To Iom, our evil ruler, your servant Warderer offers you the blood of royalty. Accept my offering. I just want to say as a side note here, I have no idea who the hell this king is. When I was a kid, I didn't question this because I didn't play the previous game. It's like, okay, he's the king, whatever. In the previous game, Prince Nick was presumably... It's not really clear who his dad was, but the kingdom was being ruled by his uncle. We killed his uncle because he was evil, basically. He got, like, manipulated by Iom or whatever. But Prince Nick is still just called Prince Nick? So who is this guy? Is this guy... Did Nick's uncle have other siblings? Like, maybe this guy is Nick's dad? Maybe he's just some other uncle of Prince Nick's that took over? It's not really explained, but yeah, I'm like, he's apparently the king, but I actually am not totally sure who he is. He was not mentioned in the previous game at any point. Oh, stop. I'm still the king. I will not stand for this. I demand that you release me at once. Quiet. You disgust me. Iom deserves royal blood. Disgusting royal blood, apparently. You will become one with our deity. You ought to be grateful. These graphics are incredibly improved over the old Sega Genesis for the Game Gear version. Oh, truly evil prince of darkness, accept our sacrifice. Stop! Spare me! Stop! Wow! This is also great when he just like rolls down into lava. It's not clear. Barbara, update me on the latest information you have on Cypress. Things are going according to plan. It's interesting. This game, every Shining Force game seems to have like a female villain who has green skin and some random hair color, occasionally purple skin instead, because we've had these weird green and purple people in every Shining Force game. In Shining Force 2, they're identified as devils, but they're not prior to that. They're just, like, vaguely evil, so, like, it's not totally clear why there's these random aliens. They're marching towards Iom, unaware of the trap we set for them. They think they can triumph over us. What misguided fools. What about the Guardiana army? Don't worry about them. By the time they are ready to march, the Cypress Army will already be on their way. Apparently Guardiana and Cypress are not very good at coordinating their armies. Very good news, Barbara. Do you have anything to add, Solo? I feel like this guy is like the old guy. He's like, back in my day, sir, the fort on the Algam Plains is close to completion. We've also surrounded the fort with traps. All we must do now is wait for the Cypress Army. And then he's like, in my day, you wanted to summon your army, you had to walk uphill. He just seems hella old. Good work, Solo. Now all we need is the Sword of Hajya. How shall we do that? You used to have the Sword of Hajya before Prince Nick's army took it back. Gordon, where's Gordon? Gordon is a very weird dude. You summoned me, sir? I'm at your service. Gordon, you know Prince Nick of Cyprus better than any of us. His name is in all caps because it's all the character names are in all caps for some reason. I actually have no idea why that's the case. The lowercase letters are clearly available. What's funny is the villains' names are not like this. Only the player characters. Will the prince lead his army even without the support of Guardiana? Not to worry, sir. He's a man of honor. Even if his right hand has turned to stone, he'll come. Since his right hand is useless, would he bring his sword? A better question is, why would he go fight Iom if he can't use the magic sword that is the only thing that can damage Iom? That just seems like a poor decision. I'm like, Prince Nick, you were the main character of the previous game, I like you, but I'm really questioning this a bit here. Gordon, here are your orders. After the Cypress Army leaves their castle, raid it and bring me the Sword of Hajya. Sir, as you wish. He just stopped to say hi. Barbara Solo, go with him. Yes, sir. They can teleport, apparently. Sir, back in my day, we didn't have any of this fancy teleportation. By the way, Hindle, accept my condolences. I don't know what voice I would give Hindle. I guess I won't give him a voice. He's just the narration voice. Sir. I heard that your younger brother died at the hands of a lowly swordsman. It couldn't be helped. The law of the land states if one is unable to protect oneself, one deserves to die. Wow, Cyprus is a very harsh land. Unless by law of the land he meant more like the law of nature or something. Because I'm like, is it the actual law of the land where you live? Also weird, look at his face portrait at like the neck below his helmet. Is that supposed to be a flesh tone, like he's wearing this helmet but also like wearing a sleeveless like shirt with an open neck, or is it supposed to be he's wearing a scarf? Because if he's wearing a full metal helmet over just like a tank top, that would be pretty bizarre. You're absolutely correct about that. Warder is kind of a dick. Just remember that power is the key. Power is what we need the most. More power. Ho ho ho. Hindle had nothing particular to say to that. He was just like, "Okay." And here we are with some old friends. This is Guyan, who we met in the previous game, as one of Prince Nick's servants. We actually fought in the final battle. He wasn't amazing or anything. His armor got even fancier. I'm just gonna reminisce here before we watch this whole cutscene about the original game. In the original game here, most of the characters in the army that we can see are generic sprites, and the few non-generic sprites, we'll actually meet all of those people later. They're like actual characters. In the original game, they actually just used the same sprites that all of the other characters used. Everyone didn't have a unique sprite. They were just like generic class sprites, so there's like a cavalier sprite and archer sprite. So the army was just full of those. And the graphics were also like didn't really have shading and things because it was on the Game Gear. The portraits are so much more impressive. Today, Prince Nick and the Cypress Army begin their long march to Iom. Is it that long? We got there in the first game and it did not seem to take particularly long. In order to preserve peace. Hurrah! Hurrah! Everyone's very hype about this. Prince Nick even has an upgraded sprite. This is a different sprite than he had in the previous game. Mayfair, that's Mayfair standing next to him. She also has a different map sprite. So I guess for this game they were like, you know, we need to give them fancier looking ones. Prince Nick, if you are ready. I'm just about ready. Mayfair, you're in charge while I'm gone. He also got a new portrait. They didn't reuse the one from the, the first one. I don't really know why. I guess because it was like, time has passed. We have to show that he is slightly older. Even though I don't think it's actually been that long. He's slightly prettier, I guess. You can count on me. The castle will be well protected during your absence. Mayfair also has a very slightly different portrait. Also, I want to point out again that remember how in the previous game we were told that Mayfair was blinded during the attack of like the various Iom servants. So, assuming that the writers didn't just forget that and that's still true, she's taking care of this entire castle and doing all of this stuff while totally blind. Mayfair is again the Batman. She is so prepared and so competent that it doesn't hold her back at all. Guyan, take care of the prince and look after yourself, okay? Thanks, I'll be careful. That's like an amazingly generic reply. That's when you say when someone is like, you're like, this is really awkward. Okay, yeah, sure, thanks. Guyan's like, we're not that close. We must succeed. And to ensure that he succeeds, Prince Nick is taking an army of exactly 12 people plus him and Guyan. Which, to be fair, as silly as that may seem, in Shining Force, basically he has a full party. I actually think he has some reserves, because I think you only ever get to take 12 people into battle, if I remember right. So he has a full army and 2 reserves, which for Shining Force is quite a lot. In order to achieve true peace, there is no other way. Hurrah! Hurrah! Everyone is extremely hyped about this expedition. Lower the drawbridge. Get a nice animation here of this drawbridge lowering. And now we meet some party members. Natasha, what's wrong? I'm not sure what kind of voice to give Natasha. Maybe just like a soft voice. She seems like maybe she's a little shy. Prince Nick, come quickly. We heard some screams coming from the cliffs, and when we arrived... This young man was lying there unconscious. This is Dawn, who will be one of our paladins. Or, I guess in this game they're not called that. They're called knights. To me, they're cavaliers who promote to paladins because I play more Fire Emblem. But these are Natasha and Dawn, who will be 2 of our party members. Natasha's sprite, I just want to stop again here and talk about the sprite. In the original game, the map sprites were all just generic, like I said. So she just had like a little generic, like, mage sprite. In this game, everyone has their own map sprite, so we can actually see her hairstyle with the 2 buns that she has pinned up, which in the original game, I did not know, because you can see the face portrait is also zoomed in enough that you can't really see that. So in the original game, I didn't know she had that hairstyle until, like, I saw her in the manual of the game, I think, because you can't tell from the portrait. Here, you actually can. So much graphical fidelity. Is he hurt? Bring him to the castle and tend to his wounds. As you may guess, this character is us. I also like how in this version of the game, the Sega CD version, our main character here is on like a little cart or something. In the original one, I think his sprite was just there, so it looks like they just dragged him, like, just dragged him over land to the castle. That might be why he's so injured. I'll take him to the castle. The little wheeled cart. Ah, Prince Nick, I guess it's time for you to leave. Yes, I must be leaving. Don't be so glum. So, like, is Prince Nick in charge of Cyprus now? Or is this just his castle and there is a king of Cyprus somewhere and this is just like his earldom that he has or something? Like, genuinely, it's not really clear in the game. I sort of assumed as a kid when I played it that he was the ruler of Cyprus, but then he would be the king, and he's not. And the king is presumably the guy we just saw get sacrificed to Iom. Do they know about that? Is like this something everyone has heard about? It's a little vague. This battle was unavoidable, and it is for the good of Cyprus. Take care of things while I'm gone. And off they go. This music is so good. Because this is also like obviously like a redone version of the music from when I was a kid, and like I'm like, this is close enough to the original to have the nostalgia, but it is also improved enough to sound really good. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. Mayfair will actually not be a party member in this game. She's basically like our advisor character, kind of like Lo was in the last game, where he like appears at camp and everything. The prince and his party will be fine. They're stronger than you think. They'll be back victorious. Yes, they will. Chapter 1. This game is the same length as Shining Force 1, so this won't take all that long. Prince Nick and the Cypress Army begin their journey to Iom. Meanwhile, our starting party members. They're patrolling the castle. This music is also great. Is everyone at their posts? Natasha, are you alright? I'm worried about you. You've been doing double guard duty lately. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I've seen you and Ben talking occasionally. You appear to be the only one he talks to. Can you keep him near you and be his friend? Sure. That's also an amazingly non-committal response. Like, yeah, okay, whatever. Shouldn't sound that hyped. Eric, what a surprise! You're not fooling around today. What do you mean? I always pay full attention when I'm on duty. This guy is also great, and from the original game, I like how his face portrait here captures his weird red nose. He vaguely looks like he's like related to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Just remember, be alert and no fooling around. Relax, she's gone, and then some fooling around immediately. Guard duty is such a bore. Yeah, we should have gone with the prince into battle. This is Jaha. There was also a character in Shining Force 2 named Jaha, so I guess it's just a recurring name because it's not the same person. This is also, I was always baffled as a child by what the hell he has on his head. As a kid, the graphics fidelity was not as high, obviously, so it looked like maybe it was just some sort of weird lumpy hat. Here, it looks more like it's a metal pot that he's put on his head for unclear reasons. Either way, baffling. Hey Ben, come join us. I don't know what voice to give our main character here either. Maybe just, he also can have the narrator voice. What? Don't tempt him, you're not a good influence. Unlike you, Ben is taking his guard duty seriously. Also, we found this guy lying unconscious at like the base of a cliff or something and immediately just added him to our ranks. This is like the video game logic where you just add people to your party all the time, so no questions are asked about like, is this person qualified to do this at all? Do we like know who they are? Like, how did they get here? It's just like, good, a new party member. It's also the Fire Emblem logic. It's like, oh, a character with a face portrait who's not an enemy? You're a party member. Leave us alone, Dawn. We're only having some fun. I wonder if the implication here is supposed to be that all of these people are very drunk, because they all have like that bright red nose that in cartoons is sometimes used to indicate drunkenness. I'm really not sure. Because like, Eric and Luke both have it. I knew it. You've left your posts. Despicable. Relax. Nothing is gonna happen anyway. And then, of course, also this game will also have epilepsy warning for most of the episodes. These games love flashing lights for some reason. Saw's about that. Look, it's the enemy! And then immediately. Also, how strong is this army if they could drill through stone walls immediately? The enemy! Everyone to their posts! Okay. The graphics are really something. Okay, so let's just look around at everyone. Fighting some goblins. Interestingly, this enemy is called the Scavenger. In the original Game Gear version of the game, this was translated as Skaben. So I'm kind of assuming that it was just a mistranslation. Because if I might be remembering this incorrectly, but if I remember right, I think Japanese doesn't use the V sound, so when like Western names and stuff being translated, sometimes V and B become interchangeable, so I'm guessing that this was just a bad translation of Scavenger that got translated as Skaben, and then there weren't enough character slots in the Game Gear version to actually fit all the letters, so they just had to shrink it down. But yes, I was always baffled by that as a kid and thought it had something to do with like scabs, like maybe they're disease, but apparently they're just scavengers. The Dragonoot. This is actually fascinating because it's like weird in the opposite direction. In the Game Gear version of the game, this was the dragon. The Dragonoot, like N-E-W-T, like the lizard, which kind of made sense. It's like it's a dragon that's newt thing. It's like a lizard monster. Here, it's the Dragonoot, which means nothing. So I'm like, okay. I don't know why it's like that. But yeah, this is our first battle. Let's meet our party. This is... Oh, right, it's this... I always forget which button is the... Which one is the... okay, there we go. A button. This is Eric, a knight. He usually turns out decent well. This is Dawn, also knight. She usually turns out good. I almost always use her in my final party. Plus, I like her like little wings she's wearing in her hair. I think they're cool. This is the warrior Jaha. He usually gets dropped. I usually don't use warriors because they're too slow. This is our main character, Ben, a swordsman who will promote to a hero as a standard for Shining Force. Here's something interesting. This character, like all the other Shining Force main characters, he does have a canonical name. It is Deanna. D-E-A-N-N-A, I believe, Deanna, which is kind of weird because I'm more familiar with that as a woman's name, but not spelt like that. So maybe it was like Dean, but Dina, I don't know. But I've obviously never heard it said aloud because this game doesn't have voice acting. But yeah, as a kid, I actually did, when I first played this game and saw this portrait, I thought this was a female character. Once he promotes, his battle sprite is more obviously a dude. But as a kid, I thought this might be a chick. Maybe it was just wishful thinking because there were so few video games I played as a kid where the main character was a female character that I just always wanted there to be one, so I just hoped. Here's Luke, our monk. For now, he'll be our only healer. He usually doesn't stay to the final party because he's not bad or anything, but he's like just okay. And here's Natasha, the mage. She is the blaze mage, so she'll get like the highest level of the fire spells. As in basically all the Shining Force games that we've played, magic tends to be like really useful for a good chunk of the game, but then by endgame it kind of falls off in usefulness, but she'll probably be in the final party anyway, just because I really love mages. Interestingly, you'll notice that she has the egress spell. In every other Shining Force game we played so far, only the main character has this, but there's an important reason for this. Spoilers, but spoilers for this very, very old game, but halfway through the game, the party ends up splitting and going in different directions, and whereas our main character, Ben, will be the leader of one party, Natasha will be with the other party, and so this way both parties can actually still have egress and be able to escape battles. So that's kind of neat. Also, as a side note, as a child, I learned the word egress from these games. I think it's amazing that instead of translating it as like exit or escape, they went with the much more fanciful egress, which really gives it a certain charm. So let's just start the battle. And since there's not a lot to say during this battle, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about my reminiscence on this game. The battle backgrounds look amazing, by the way, as is usual for this game. The sprite work is quite good, in my opinion. It looks nice. It wasn't quite as... The thing is, like, the original Game Gear game, like, looking back at it now, it looks amazingly primitive, but as a kid, it looked fantastic, because, like, you know, the other handheld game system that I had as a kid was a Game Boy Pocket. So, by comparison, this is like it's in full color, the sprites are like, you know, large, it looked very impressive. But yeah, I played this as a kid without even knowing that other Shining Force games existed at all. I didn't know about the series. Yeah, might as well finish off the scavenger. But yeah, so I played this as a standalone game, and you can definitely, like, it's comprehensible as a standalone game. It's not like you'll be lost, because, let's be real, the first game, Shining Force Gaiden 1, it didn't have, like, a super deep plot or anything. It's pretty straightforward. Now, Shining Force 1, if you didn't play the Shining Force Gaiden 1, if you didn't play the original Shining Force game, you will be confused at the opening, because you'll be like, who the hell are all these people from the first game? But this one doesn't really reference any of that particularly. It's there, you know, obviously in the opening cutscene. Maybe this was released with layers, but whatever. Gotta shout out the shading on Natasha's sprite here. The purple on the hat and cloak is very nicely shaded. In the original game, she just had a white and blue palette, which I don't know if that might have been because of like color limitations on the Game Gear, like there could only be so many colors in the palette, and that's just, you know, the ones that they used. But yeah, in that game she had a blue hat and cloak and like a white robe. But the purple is actually, like, when you see like her character art, her actual character art, the purple is more, I think she actually has a purple outfit, so that does fit. But yeah, so in this game, you don't really need to know any of the characters in the previous game, because even Prince Nick, like, you know, the previous game is a bit more about like how we met him, but here, all you really need to know is he's the prince of this land, Cypress, and there's a battle, like, there's some enemy Ion that he has to fight to bring peace, and his army's leaving to fight them, and you are a bunch of youths who have stayed behind to guard the sword of Hajya. And and then enemies appear and steal the sword, and you have to get it back. And that's really the whole plot. The fact that Prince Nick's right hand is made of stone, all that stuff, obviously that's stuff that happened in the first game, but this game tells you that in the opening cutscene, so it just feels like a story that starts like in media res and for reasons that you don't know. So if you haven't played the first game, it's like, wow, this game sure has a lot of backstory that's not explained, but you know, as a kid, I didn't question that at all. It's just like, oh, okay, it's the story of this mysterious land, Cypress. The funny thing is, Guardiana, it's sort of briefly mentioned, but like, Guardiana is not really a big part of the Gaiden games. They're sort of just a little bit. Well, the first one more, but this one is really all about Cypress. So to me as a kid, I associate Shining Force with the Cypress Army, even though in the rest of the games, the Guardiana Army in the first one was bigger. And then the second one, obviously, the Ground Seal people or whatever, Grand Seal. But to me, it was all about Guardiana. Or all about Cypress, rather. I was getting distracted here. When I try to talk and play these games at the same time, my play decreases in skill precipitously. And the skill wasn't that high to start with. But yeah, so this is definitely a game where you can play it as a standalone game. It doesn't make itself like impossible to understand or anything, but it is definitely a bit weird to play it as a standalone game because the opening, like, this is like Prince Nick and Gaia and Mayfair, and here's all these people. And if you played the first game, it's like, oh, I recognize them all. If you didn't even know there was a first game, you'll be like, who the hell are all these people? What is going on in this story? But, and we won't actually hear about them again for quite a ways into the game, so playing it as a standalone game as a kid, it was like, this is the story of these youths, and also these other people are here occasionally, but not very often, which was so weird. They just, like, come back at the end, and, like, obviously if you played both games, it's like, oh, at last, you know, we met Prince Nick again, and this one's just like, oh yeah, that guy, he was in the beginning of the game, wasn't he? So it's very weird. This is like try number 3 or 4 to record this because the first time I tried it, the emulator kept freezing during the opening cutscene with Mortar and the rest, and I could not figure out how to get past it. So I even dug up like a Game Gear emulation, but I really wanted to try and get this one to work because, you know, I wanted to see the upgraded graphics myself. You know, it's like I already played the Game Gear version twice even because I played it as a kid, and then I also played it when it was available on the Virtual Console on the 3DS. So I played it relatively recently. Oh, this might be the end of Natasha. She's back to you. But yeah, I really wanted to play this, like, I guess more fancy version and see what it looked like. I'm gonna use her attack here because she'll do a huge chunk of damage to someone else to finish the goblin off. Then we can get some levels for our other friends. Almost done with this battle. We'll be getting like right up to 30 minutes, but it is the first episode, so you know, we'll probably run over a little. Ideally, I'd do a level for everyone, but maybe not. Oh, well, she can weaken the Draco dude some more. It's still kicking. But yeah, so I ended up basically Googling a lot and discovered that there's just I needed to tweak one of the settings on the emulator. And once I did that, it did work correctly, so I'm very hyped. Because I gotta say, going back and looking at the Game Gear graphics again, man, they are primitive looking now. They're like so blocky and simplified. Even though at the time, as a kid, I thought they were like amazing. We have like one enemy left. Oh man, Jaha is very injured. I have my injured people just hide back here a bit so we can kind of bait this enemy out without putting them in danger. Oh, so Luke, go start the party. This has happened in a couple of the other games too, where the monks, in their battle animations, they're wielding a staff, but they don't wield staves as their actual weapon class, they use gloves. So I don't know why they didn't just make monks use some kind of staff, because it's already in their animations, why not? It's a little odd. wow, Luke actually got another turn pretty quickly. He's very fast, apparently. He doesn't do that much damage right now, but, you know, with time. We're wrapping up this battle. But yeah, this game definitely kicks off in like a very, you know, we have the dramatic opening, obviously. Where I do like I think this game is a little stronger in writing than the first Gaiden game. Because we actually open and meet all the villains in the opening crawl. And like, you know, kind of get to have a sense of what their plan is. If they're going to steal the Sword of Hajya and ambush Prince Nick's army. Ah, thief! The Sword of Hajya just got stolen. By that guy. The Sword of Hajya has been stolen. Must be the work of Ion. A very astute guess. Graham took a fighting stance with the Sword of Hajya. As a kid, I thought his name was Graham because I had never seen the name Graham written out. Apparently, it is actually Graham. Punch through the wall. Look, there's the thief. After him. I also want to point out that in the Game Gear version of this game I played as a kid, he doesn't use the Sword of Hajya. He just headbutts his way through the wall straight up, which is incredible. Rushing off to go catch the thief who stole the sword. I'll get him. And these three immediately trip and fall. There is some like slapstick comedy in this game also. I feel like all the Shining Force games have weird random things where they like, now some comedy, and they're always so like out of place with the rest of the game. Graham also has some incredible legs. If he could just jump straight off that cliff and not like break his shins. But so do we, because we're gonna do the exact same thing. Look, there he is! Rats, they're after me! As you can probably tell by the fact that this guy has a face portrait and doesn't look like some sort of nonsense monster, he's going to be a party member. His portrait is actually a little different than in the Game Gear one. He has like a short hair, like quite short, bright blue hair, and it's like very neon aqua. Whereas here, he kind of has longer, fluffier hair that's a little darker blue. Dwarf! Yeah, this dwarf sounds so enthused. The Cypress Battalion? Graham, you idiot, you've been followed. Go on ahead, leave this to me. Yes, I'll go on ahead. Hurry, everyone, get that man! How are we living this jump? This cliff appears to be like about... Some of us get down the cliff in a different style. But yeah, this cliff feels like it's like about 30 feet tall. Like, how did we jump straight off that? Wait a moment. If you're after Graham, I'm afraid you're out of luck. I'm afraid I can't let you go any further. My faithful followers, attack! So naturally we have to battle our way there, but we are actually going to break here, and save that for the next episode. But yeah, just to finish that thought that I had before, I actually think the writing in this game is overall a little stronger than the last one. We get to start off meeting all the villains and kind of finding out what their plan is. Then we get to see Prince Nick's army marching off into what, you know, the player knows they're marching into a trap, and then we kind of meet our main characters, and they actually get some like nice little moments in our first chapter with them to kind of show their personalities a bit and kind of, you know, even though this game doesn't have tons of like character dialogue, it gives you a little bit of a sense of who they are and kind of makes you get attached to them. And then we start off right away with the Sword of Hajya is stolen. We have to retrieve it, which is obviously a nice simple quest for our characters, but still is like very clear and like easy to follow when you're playing this game as a little kid, and there's all these characters that you're like, who are these people, because they're from the previous game. This part is straightforward. So it does get you off to a nice action beginning. So I actually do, obviously there's some nostalgia color in that, but I do actually like the writing in this game. I think it kind of like weaves the story together nicely. But thank you for watching, hypothetical viewers. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Shining Force Sword of Hajya, and I hope you are as excited as I am to see the full, graphically improved version of this game that I loved so much as a child. So look forward to the next episode as we continue our pursuit of Graham and try to retrieve the Sword of Hajya before it is too late. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.